confidence to leave something like Camille up? Or are they leaving Camille up to take it away for Ray? Because that is something that TSM has had banned away a lot against them.
Right, we're already seeing a lot of trends as we get deeper into this patch 7.6, which is what the finals are on. We see a lot of jungle bans in almost every game. We also see a large amount of first picking of junglers, and less for these teams if something like Lulu is up, because it's something that was, when available, picked away by both of these teams every time in the semifinal.
Of note, TSM did select red side for this draft, so they're going to maybe give Cloud9 a first pick here. Rengar, Ashe, and Rumble are Cloud9's 3 bans. LeBlanc and Graves for TSM, and now Shen actually taken away, so Camille, the obvious one left open, but a lot of options here.
Yeah, I definitely think you are looking at Camille, but Lulu is a great option here too. And we saw yesterday the rise of these AD carry protection comps. Ivern is up on the table. You can run multiple shielders. Orianna, a big one for both these guys too.
Yeah, so with the Lulu here, even though other mid laners like Faker have recently played it in the mid lane, it's not something that is traditionally flexible for C9. So this is most likely a Lulu for Smoothie, but things like Ivern are still available if they still want to go with the full type of protection comp.
Well, there's Karma picks for TSM, so that's been fairly common, but Sven actually might take an early jungler here. I mean, Ivern's the other one we think of. I think you have to take it, and they do.
And this is interesting because Bjergsen actually is someone who did play Karma mid quite a bit when it was popular. Faker has shown this mid lane. It's been played in the LPL as well. And I think that they could even be someone to pick up something like the Twitch or the Kog'Maw and run a Protect the AD carry comp.
Yeah, the chances are still there. I also wonder how many of these trends are going to stick through from semifinals to finals. For instance, TSM was red side every game against FlyQuest. Their first 2 picks were always support and jungler, and then twice they followed that with the mid laner instead of counter picking with it. I think in this matchup, we're probably more likely to see an AD carry pick early before the draft phase, but we're going to have to wait and see what Cloud9 does.
I mean, Kennen, blind picking that Kennen top lane, very likely for Ray. Yes, it can be played AD carry, but Siki has not shown that. That does show a lot of confidence in perhaps why they brought him out.
Well, we'll have to see there as Lee Sin's the pick for Cloud9. There's Caitlyn though for TSM, so like you expected, Jett, they are going to wait on mid lane counter pick, but you can already see the power that TSM's assembled in these first 3 picks.
Yeah, if they put that Karma bottom lane, that is such a strong shoving lane, it's going to be difficult for C9 to match that. It is good that Contractz has the Lee Sin though, because that is widely feared, as is Svenskeren's, but he had picked the Ivern. It was banned every game against Cloud9 by Phoenix 1 in the semifinals, so I can see why Cloud9 would lock that down before the second ban phase.
I do really like the Caitlyn pick here too, because you don't even have to run the Karma mid to have a supportive mid laner. You can still pick things like Orianna. You have both a powerful pushing lane in bot lane, and you have that late game power of the Caitlyn carry.
Yeah, and I do also think there's an additional layer here where the Kennen is probably going top lane for Ray, we would imagine. So TSM has a chance here to get their pick of the litter counter pick top laner, and then also wait to counter pick the bottom lane. So that's a pretty good position for TSM to be in.
And I like what TSM have done here with their next phase bans. Varus banned away as an AD carry pick, but Syndra taken away, likely indicating Orianna out of this phase for TSM. We'll have to see, of course, as C9 have banned away Renekton, but if they are looking to something like Orianna to still be a strong mid laner but be supportive, this is a good setup for that.
For C9 on the other side, we could be looking at something like an Echo for Jensen. The split push 1-3-1 type compositions work extremely well with Kennen in the top lane.
Yeah, I feel like it's very interesting that Cloud9 banned the Orianna, because that's something I was looking at for Jensen to blind as a mid laner since he has to do that. And as you say, Azale, Echo would be one of the next blindable mid laners because his Echo has been so solid, and they needed to match what looks like is an evolving 1-3-1 strategy for TSM now that Camille's locked in.
Well, Camille is the pick there for TSM. I think they expected TSM to take Ori, so maybe a mind game there in the draft, but you can just tell both Rebit and Part and the teams are navigating this draft very carefully in this opening game here. Sneaky, though, is going to have to fall back to a different AD carry. Maybe a little rough in lane, but certainly a strong pick. There's Lucian.
Yeah, Lucian, I think he really is going to struggle in lane against the Karma and the Caitlyn. I favor that lane pretty heavily in this 2v2 matchup. That said, you do have a strong early ganking jungler, and you have a powerful dueling AD carry. So if he can get ahead, he's going to be strong in mid-game skirmishes.
So much of that Lucian success early will be predicated around whether or not Contractz can affect that lane.
Well, last pick here for C9, and it does have to be blind pick mid for Jensen. He will go with Cassiopeia. We'll see what Bjergsen has for the counter pick. Oriban kind of enables this pick as well, but there are a lot of things you can take into this matchup.
And it'll be interesting to see what Bjergsen actually wants to showcase. He's able to play almost every meta mid lane champion.
Probably not that.
Yeah, and he has a large number of options right now. The only mid lane bans are Orianna, Syndra, and LeBlanc. He did play Taliyah in the semifinals, and this would play into the 1-3-1 strategy, and this would more be Bjergsen trying to help with that pushing bottom lane, or the snowballing top lane in Camille.
Well, I like what we've assembled here. Last pick Taliyah there for Bjergsen means that both teams come in pretty well equipped for this draft. You could see a lot of time being used just making sure the picks happen. Team very aware of the different strengths and weaknesses of the team, and I think just the total amount of time we spent talking about the draft and that we could see the teams were deliberating on says that these teams are both very well prepared, and they know that especially if this goes the full 5 games and they're probably expecting a long series, draft's going to be important and they're taking their time.
I really do like TSM's draft, but something they're going to have to be very careful about is the early game for Hauntzer. He's playing a melee into range matchup. Yeah. Ray can abuse him there. That said, Camille, once he gets a couple levels, fantastic gank assist, and Ivern coming up there may mean it's a hotbed for junglers.
Exactly. Jungle and mid lane are going to need to bail out some of these lanes early. For TSM, it would be the top lane that is getting pushed in. For Cloud9, it's potentially the Lucian and Lulu that are getting pushed in.
And then the question is, do you focus on your strengths or shoring up your weaknesses, right? If you're Contractz, do you go and try to snowball that Kennen, or do you try to help out an already losing lane? That's the things that these junglers are going to have to keep in mind and decide upon. And
that's a matchup we expected to mean a lot, especially, as always, in the early stages of the game. Ivern, maybe the hottest pick so far of just the top 4 that we've had. We saw a ton of it yesterday. It won every game and it was banned the rest of the series between FlyQuest and P1, and that went the full distance. I think they accept that. They knew they were giving it away. The Contractz and his Lucian have to get stuff done early. For a rookie on a stage this big in your first ever finals, that is a big ask.
Yeah, and the pressure, as Doublelift mentioned, is so huge in this matchup. You can still remember a lot of the key moments from the summer finals of 2016, and so much has happened in between that. We had Worlds, we had the 40-plus games they played in the spring split, but what they do in this match is what people are going to remember.
Well, we're out into the rip for game number 1, TSM versus Cloud9, the 2017 NALCS Spring Finals. TSM looking to make it 2 straight in Canada. C9 looking for their first finals win in 3 years. That's how long it's been for an organization that has looked so hungry this season.
They really have, and they started off so strong, undefeated through the early weeks of the season. People had them pegged as the clear #1, but slowly but surely, TSM was able to crawl back and end up here as the favorites in the final.
Just feels like it always happens. We'll see what happens though, as in the level 1, as teams are going to move out. Nothing crazy starting off. You can see a ward for TSM on the C9 Raptors, but just getting that early information.
Exactly, and the early scouting is so pivotal against the Ivern because of the counter jungling potential, but also because Lee Sin can get out so many potent ganks, and Ivern generally executes counter ganks best. What we've seen from most recent Iverns in North America, if they can get away with it, has actually been the 3-minute 20-second full clear, which starts on the blue side of the jungle. That's not where Svenskeren is currently set up. If he's set up in this position, he would actually try to move towards a blue buff steal, but he would be warded out because of what C9 was able to do early.
And part of that may simply be that he's expecting Contractz to try to invade him and his blue buff.
Bjergsen trying to stop Raptors.
Bjergsen's in trouble. He's actually taking too much damage already. Smoothie got the first slow. Ghost pop there for Bjergsen. Gonna get himself to safety, but burned a pot as well.
Yeah, and I mean, chunking him that low, the minions are already out there. He now has to start the laning phase at a pretty significant disadvantage. He's gonna lose both of his potions and not even be at full health.
Yeah, he was trying to disrupt Raptors as well because he wanted to scout for Svenskeren to know if this blue steal was safe. So that's exactly the path that Svenskeren's gone with.
Well, I like it. Very aggressive here, but Contractz moving into the other side of the jungle probably just means the trade here, as the junglers are going to move vertically through the early clear.
And that's what the ward at Svenskeren's Raptors tells them. So at the end of the day, it is Bjergsen sacrificing a lot for what is actually not that much of a gain.
Man, I mean, the one thing to note is Svenskeren actually stayed around on that blue side. He did mark up some extra camps, so he is trying to clear more of that jungle out, and Contractz now getting collapsed on.
Oh, be okay. Ignite's already down.
Kill him.
He's going to beat him. Contractz needs to be careful. Blast up. The WildTurtle. First blood of the finals.
What a huge roam there by the TSM bot lane. The early pushing power of the Karma and the Caitlyn allow them that freedom to make the level 2 roam. And then the predictive counter invade is what is punished there, putting Contractz in a hole early.
That is so big for the TSM bot lane. Now Caitlyn with a blue can spam out, and Ivern is sneaking up to the top side. Could be looking to sway this matchup as well.
Svenskeren looking to go in. Hauntzer going to leap forward. Flash from Ray's going to get him to safety. Svenskeren not needed. Hauntzer already gets the summoner though.
I feel like that flash was a little bit unnecessary for Ray. The early damage that an Ivern can put down is very low, and Hauntzer had already expended the hookshot just to close the distance and didn't get the stun.
See Bjerg struggling a bit in that lane. Jensen burn the ghost to get aggressive. Oh, Smoothie now going to get aggressive by Turtle again. Almost gets the headshot, but forces a flash. Bottom lane going really bad early.
That 90 caliber net was so close to connecting from Turtle. Would have been another kill.
TSM definitely hoping to now build on the strengths of that bottom lane we talked about. Already getting that blue buff on Caitlyn is so huge. And just watch this again one more time from Biofrost. Lands the empowered Q and then just gets the ignite. Contractz didn't have many other ways out there unless he would have ward jumped early maybe, but it seemed like they just had the cut.
I mean, I think that the correct decision there would have simply been go up towards the Scuttle Crab. You can ward jump out and try to run out because Caitlyn is going to be on the bot side. He escaped towards that bot side and into Caitlyn's arms for first blood.
Just a great trap set by TSM as Hauntzer and Ray also continuing to trade. Kennen does have the early advantage. Fervor has been very common on these types of top lane Kennen. We'll likely see some sort of runes on hit build as the lane continues. But it looks like Contractz might even be dipping in to try and get a gank, but for now, they'll leave them 1v1. Ray looking good early on.
Yeah, the early laning phase from Hauntzer, though, getting the CS advantages and melee into the range matchup is very promising because for this Camille to be successful, he does need to be able to duel the Kennen at almost every stage of the game. Hauntzer's Camille has been widely banned by most of the NALCS.
And Svenskeren back up here, no flash on Ray, double flash available. Ray could be going down.
Good
Nice
dodge
dude.
there, actually rushing around and the Q's going to miss from Sven. Shield not enough for the slow Svenskeren. Going to put some brush down and be annoying, but that's all he can do. Luckily for them, Contractz is all the way on the right-hand side of the map, but Ray dodges yet another gang.
They might want to continue pressuring this lane, though. You can see Bjergsen already putting wards up towards the top side, so we had that question at the start of the game, Azale. Does TSM try to snowball around their bot lane, or are they going to be trying to use their pressure upwards? It looks like Svenskeren and Bjergsen are trying to control that top side with wards and just relying on the strength of the Caitlyn and the Karma for now.
And I think it's a smart choice, but Contractz down here,
Biofrost
no ward.
Check. Good ward over Contractz. He's going to force the heal out of Turtle. Just jumps in and gets away. Flash is still up for Biofrost, though. Turtle playing far enough back, he's going to be safe.
Now, another thing we're going to have to remember about having Ivern on this TSM team is if Bjergsen and Svenskeren put focus up there, they can also donate red buffs over to Hauntzer to help him out in this dueling matchup, and that is an advantage that red side top laners get with Ivern.
Sneaky also under threat. Smoothie, no flash. Maybe in trouble as well. Svenskeren going to walk in, get some brush down. Spotted by the Scry's doing moves there by Contractz, who is back down on this side. Looks like Sven was anticipating continued action here in the bottom lane, which does leave top lane isolated again. Ray has caught back up in CS, but again, this seems good for Hauntzer early on. I mean, the pressure not working out isn't good for him, but the fact that his even's great.
Yeah, and Ray sticking around quite a long time, still yet to go back for that first buy. So if he can continue to shove Hauntzer in, that's pretty good for C9.
Plus, the wave is actually in a pretty awkward spot for Ray. He's going to have to base, and the wave is going to be frozen against him. So now he must push in that wave, which means Svenskeren can come up topside, knowing he has to either TP back or get frozen on, and anticipate that.
Looks like Hauntzer held onto his teleport as well. And if they see a TP, Svenskeren is in position for a potential gank here. Contractz are up on this side. Sven smites away the Grom.
We could see some conflict here. Svenskeren's in pretty deep, and with that top lane pushed against him, it could have been a potential collapse with a Ray teleport, but he spots Lee Sin and gets out.
Yeah, so, I mean, Ray is essentially just bleeding CS now, because all of these creeps are getting denied to his own up in the top side. Since Hauntzer had this set up, this is very nicely positioned from him. And not only is he getting the CS advantage, he's going to get ahead in levels and XP, and we need Contractz to come up topside and help Ray, or this freeze will be pretty awkward. And
Camille is just one of those champions that, like you said, kind of does need to get going in the laning phase and stay at least even. But when she gets ahead, it just feels like you can't really do anything.
Yeah, the closing range of the Camille is so immense that it is a substantially good snowballing champion. It makes freezes like this even more dangerous, because if Ray now is tasked with going up there to get CS, if Svenskeren were there, theoretically, Hauntzer just ults in on Camille, Ray can't escape, and then Ray's going to lose the duel because of the extra shielding from the Ivern, but it looks like it will be shoving back if Ray does this right.
Yep.
It's a lot of harass down. Well done.
Actually, maybe going to keep going. No tower dive in sight. Not enough marks to stun up Hauntzer, who does have his teleport, so will likely burn it here just to get back to lane. We'll see, though. Again, Ray held onto his, so potential play on the other side of the map is also something opened up here. As Jensen now with a fresh blue buff, just going to push things in. And there's that red buff donate you guys talked about for Hauntzer.
And one of the biggest things that is kind of underestimated about the red buff is actually the out-of-combat regen. But
they're in. Good all in here. Svenskeren also lining it up. Ray already taking a little too much damage. Good route in. Daisy's out. Ray gonna flash again, but Daisy is going to look to chase it down. Looking for the third hit as Hauntzer trying to get the assassination. Knock up there, and Hauntzer gets the kill top lane.
And that's exactly what we just talked about. Ray was sneaking his head in a little bit too much because he has to respect the ult of Camille with the Ivern backing him up. Even though he'd already poked Hauntzer down to half health before he retreated, it still wasn't enough and Ray falls.
Biofrost though is taking some damage here, but TSM's bot lane still looking sturdy, up a healthy amount of CS, 20 so far. Jensen steals away the blue, but Svenskeren might make him pay for it. Bjergsen here ready with the ultimate. Daisy though chasing down Jensen. This is frustrating. Coming, Jensen.
C9 bot lane
there as
priority
well.
though, they're gonna come up.
Contractz diving back in, looking for a kick on Bjergsen. Jensen dives forward, but he already buttoned the flash. Bjergsen flashing away, gonna try and get the kill down. Total! Snipe Jensen with the ultimate.
Jensen actually did not have his ultimate for that, so that had been used in lane, and that was why TSM felt confident to make that collapse. And not only do they get the kill, they're going to get Infernal Dragon off this, and this early game is getting out of control.
Yeah, massive early game swings right there, and that's the second collapse that the TSM bottom lane has been able to make thanks to their lane priority.
And again, everyone maybe had a lot of questions for the likes of Turtle and Biofrost, but certainly looking clean in the early stages of this game. Infernal Drake will be the prize there for TSM. 3 kills up already and pretty much 2,000 gold ahead. Things going exactly how the reigning champions want.
Yeah, watching the setup for this one more time, you can see Jensen ultimate on cooldown, and he can actually kite out the Daisy, and then when the Taliyah wall comes down, Sneaky and Smoothie get cut off. So that's when they're pushed back in lane. Another great usage of the Weaver's Wall by Bjergsen to help them get a numbers advantage for that kill in the river.
Yeah, they made the call to just give up the play. Ray canceled his teleport, the bot lane couldn't get in, and they just do not seem to be getting edges where they're supposed to.
We'll kind of see how it continues to move through. 10 minutes elapsed in this game. Kind of checking on the other CS leads. It is really just Turtle with that lead. Hauntzer up a few. Looks like mid lane's pretty even. You can see the gold there. Looking very good for Turtle, actually, about 1,000 ahead. And just some little leads here and there for TSM. It's not huge, but these are the kind of early games that TSM are known for. Last split seem to be continuing on good form so far.
And one of the big things that doesn't really show in the CS is the fact that Hauntzer should be losing this matchup. You know, and yes, he's not massively ahead, but he has a kill, and he's up in farm against a ranged matchup as a melee early on. And when you do get ahead like that, it's so easy to just non-stop repeat those ganks with the ultimatum and that Ivern.
Svenskeren continuing to take camps away, though. Ivern, really frustrating when your team doesn't have control of the map because it feels like you can go anywhere. Contractz is kind of trying to match and steal some away, but Sven will be here instantly, going to be able to take the camp away. And Contractz, I mean, Bjergsen's ready, not with the ultimate, but does have his ghost. Just going to get forced out of TSM's jungle as Biofrost and Turtle are actually working on the first turret here pretty much solo.
Yeah, and it's really tricky. You have to start thinking about how C9 would be trying to get back in this game or just weather the storm. And for the most part, I think they're trying to weather the storm until they can get Cassiopeia and Lucian into team fighting form, which is kind of Blade of the Ruined King, Black Cleaver, and a few extra items onto him. But in the meantime, there is so much pick on TSM that that's incredibly difficult for C9 to do.
One of the things C9 will have is teleport, because Hauntzer did complete his to that bot lane fight, and Raze is coming up now. So if they could get some sort of ward in, they could look for a play, but TSM pushing for the first turret.
Ivern sees starting. Sneaky actually eats a snare. Turtle in, looking for something.
They were roaming people down to the bottom lane, but they do not have a deeper ward which would be able to teleport in behind TSM. Note the control ward in the lane rush by TSM, really hoping that nothing snuck in behind them, because that would be a moment for C9 to try and get back in the game.
Contractz avoids the next snare from Svenskeren, and the siege stops in bottom lane. Briefly now for TSM, but look for everyone to get significantly further around the map. I mean, Bjergsen back with the ulti, looking for top lane now. Going to clear out this control ward first.
The fact of the matter is, TSM doesn't actually need to force a play on bot side. They will just slowly get this turret regardless. It's C9 that must force a play or accept the first turret loss to a Caitlyn who's already way ahead.
Yeah, and I like what Svenskeren's doing here. He's just Iverning in the bottom lane, moving in, probably going to cast Daisy right in front of the turret, and just hope the other team engages on you because you're set up for that.
Smoothie too far forward. Lulu ulti and the flash might save him. Contractz down here as Biofrost did tank a number of turret shots. Now Daisy trying to get out of the way. Contractz doesn't want to finish that kill off, and C9 will preserve their turret. TSM invest quite a lot and do not get the siege.
So one of the things to keep in mind is you're not losing that much with the Ivern to come down, because you can mark up your camps, you just walk down, then you go back and collect. He'd already cleared his full bot side jungle, so I think Sven is playing this very well. Yeah,
because he's also dictating where Contractz has to go. If Contractz doesn't show down in that bottom lane, the turret dies. So now Lee Sin has lost his agency in the matchup since Ivern's just able to roam down to that winning lane.
You can kind of see how the problems are kind of starting to compile on each other here. Sven constantly running around, being the first to invade, which is what he always loves to do, but on Ivern just feels that much more frustrating. Looks like another blue steal is going to come out here. Smites that one away, and Contractz far too late for that one. Blast cones over and gets the bad news.
The imposter blue buff is sent in by Svenskeren afterwards as he gives Daisy over Contractz.
Jensen really wants that candy. Not going to get it though. Contractz just going to have to settle for his Grump instead.
And the red buff's back up, which means you're going to see another red buff donated very likely over to Hauntzer up on that top side where he can start to extend his advantage. And as he hits Trinity Force, that is really where Camille turns on.
Well, Biofrost actually looking mid, but he did get spotted already. Actually getting chased, is forced to flash. The bottom lane of C9 were hot on his tail.
Yeah, really nice follow from the C9 bot lane to not only stop that collapse, but force a summoner.
Yeah, TSM is continuing to try and get deep wards into C9's jungle, so if C9 can ever catch them in that warding pattern, it's another way they could hopefully get on the board with some kills. So, nice try, but Biofrost very quick on the flash.
And the reason Biofrost was looking is because Turtle was actually busy shopping. He's already got 2 kills, he's up 30 CS, and Sneaky has just finished play of the Ruin King. But Runa's Hurricane now being finished means that that turret siege that was starting and constantly pushing their lanes in just gets even harder to deal with now.
Yeah, and this bottom lane turret is actually quite important because in the grand scheme of things, the 1,500 gold lead of 14 minutes doesn't mean that much, especially to Cloud9. When the turret goes down, though, that moves it to around 3,000 or 4,000. That's a much more substantial gold lead that will lead to more item power spikes for TSM.
I will say, though, despite being behind on gold, Blade of the Ruin King is so ridiculously efficient early on for the Lucian that they do have some sort of an opportunity here to actually look for a fight. And if they can get a kill, they still can get that first turret.
And again, it just feels like TSM just want to shove the lane, don't want to interact too much in these stages. Sneaky though does want to fight Ivern's here, but so is
Contractz here too.
Snare gonna miss, Contractz waiting. Gonna check that first brush, but Contractz isn't there. Gonna have to guess again.
Yeah, teleports are up for both top laners, and currently they're not in position to interrupt each other either if they did want to come down.
Looks like Ocean Drake up in 10 seconds is part of the reason all the action has started. Contractz and Sven gonna meet once again, but Snare gonna zone him out of the way, and that's C9's control ward down as Bjergsen surfs
top lane.
Ultimate him up.
Gonna try and cut off Ray. Hauntzer gonna flash in, looks for the ultimate, does get it down, and now Bjergsen is just gonna unleash Ray. Plus the ultimate, Hauntzer gets the kill.
Nothing that Ray can do at all unless you are smashing this matchup. Hauntzer will always be able to ultimatum you in, and if there's no one else there, you're going to lose that every single time.
Yeah, and if Bjergsen finds those little windows to sneak away without losing a bunch of damage on his mid lane turret, he's going to do it. But what he does sacrifice, we mentioned the Ocean Drake just coming back up. Bottom lane seemed like the battlegrounds. That's where C9 was prepped. So they see Taliyah go up top. They're just going to take the Ocean Drake.
Daisy pops out. TSM might try and chase a kill, but the Drake already down over to Cloud9. Happy to take at least one away and equalize that objective. Jensen, though, maybe caught out here. Sven is going to miss the snare. Great dodge there from Jensen, although Daisy is going to keep going. So frustrating as a mid laner. Cassio just has to run away as fast as she can. Jensen still with a bit of health left to play with, but Hauntzer taking the top turret. So again, continuing to trade objectives here.
Exactly, and that is first turret solo gold over to Hauntzer. So despite the fact they lose the dragon, they get a kill, they get all that solo gold. That's about near 1,000 gold that Hauntzer just picked up over his opponent in that little play.
And my math isn't good, but he's got a lot of gold, and I think Trinity Force is up real soon as we'll watch this play again. I mean, just so easy to set this up.
Yeah, and aside, the wave is always in the right spot for Hauntzer is the key thing to point out there, because Ray didn't get hit by the skill shot. He dodged it. He then flashed away. He has no other ways of moving away unless he just didn't start in that position because of the way the Camille ultimate just works when Taliyah roams up with Weaver's Wall.
Yeah, your only chance really in that situation for Ray is you have your opponent so chunked down that they can't engage into you because you're dominating lane, or someone is there to back you up for the counter gank. Neither situation is happening because of the lead that Hauntzer has developed, and they don't feel like they could even win a 2v2.
And if we look at what Hauntzer's lead is now in terms of itemization, Trinity Force just finished. 2 long swords and a ruby crystal to move towards that next item. I mean, Ray was already struggling with all the attention he was getting as Contractz gets chunked out by Bjergsen. We talk about Camille killing that Trinity Force, and that's kind of where her peak, where she starts. Hauntzer's there now and has extra as well.
Yeah, the game is on the brink of snowballing in TSM's favor right here. They already took the top lane turret. The mid and the bot lane turrets are a few hits from destruction. If TSM gets the first 3 turrets down with this 1-3-1 competition, it's going to be very difficult for C9 to force team fights to pull themselves ahead.
You really have to feel like C9 needs to force something and make something work before that happens, or the gold lead this early on is just going to be too much for them.
Yeah, and we do have to point out that C9 was not a good or great early game team throughout the regular season. It's kind of miraculous that a team that was second to first place the entire split, even at the end of the regular season, averaged a negative gold difference in 15 minutes. And they were able to achieve their winning record because they were so good in team fights and so good in the mid game. So you can never really count Cloud9 out, but this is a very critical moment in the game.
This could be a bad news here for Jensen. Already caught up by Jaycee. Now Hauntzer coming down. That's an easy kill as Bjergsen walls in just to make sure. Now the bottom lane is in so much trouble for Cloud9. Hauntzer moving in, looking for sneaky. Jason Hawk comes out. Smoothie already getting almost trapped out completely. Forced to burn the ulti on himself. Contractz kick Hauntzer away, but Ray does get in to turn around. Sneaky picks up one of the Svenskeren. And Contractz starts back in. Bjergsen does take out Sneaky. Ray falls as well there for Cloud9. That's 4 dead with Contractz the only one left.
It's an absolute disaster for Cloud9. They felt like they needed to try something, but Jensen's already down. They lose 2 turrets. They lose all those kills. The gold lead is just almost insurmountable. The 19 minutes in.
Yeah, TSM is just clicking on all cylinders right now. Pretty much every individual is having a strong game, but it's led by Hauntzer here. He's the one who got the first turret. He got the first kill in this impending team fight, and he's the one who kind of took it home in the end.
If you look at the play, I mean, it's just Hauntzer, again, he comes down, the ultimate's up, you're locked in, there's no escape, nothing that Jensen can do. The players are not in position to fight, and C9, they know this is a losing fight, but they still TP in Ray and try to get something.
Yeah, and Hauntzer started that play in mid lane and caught Jensen at red buff. So when he has that big of a lead, the agency that Hauntzer has on this Camille to make plays and have the game go on his schedule, he's really taking advantage of.
Mid lane turret's under trouble as well. Jensen gonna have to get out of the way as Turtle takes it down. Good dodge again by Jensen. Out from under the Ivern Q. But unfortunately, it's not stopping their structures from falling. TSM with 4 turrets to nothing and a 7,000 gold lead already at 20 minutes in. And Hauntzer, he's bullying Ray at this point.
Yeah, he is playing with so much confidence right now.
WildTurtle and Sneaky gonna do a battle. Trap's gonna make a real bad news. Turtle able to get the 1v1.
There's nothing going right. Ray's gonna die again topside.
Yeah, Ivern maybe not needed. Is here for the assist and a few shields. Hauntzer unstoppable now with 5 kills. And it's falling apart for Cloud9.
Yeah, something we really didn't talk about before the series, because everyone expected Impact to start, was there's also a lack of experience for Ray in these big matches. He is not someone who's played in these matches. Neither is Contractz, and they're getting really outshined by Hauntzer and Svenskeren now in game 1.
Yeah, maybe Reaper had hoped giving Ray the start would give him the confidence here, and they wanted to play a carry versus carry matchup against Hauntzer, but Hauntzer did say he can play carries better than Ray and tanks better than Impact. Right now, he is definitely smashing on Camille.
I mean, there's bad news everywhere, unfortunately, for Cloud9. So watch this replay again. This is cute. I mean, Sneaky, he does try something here. As Lucian, this is the kind of thing you maybe can go for.
Yeah, the last step on the trap, gets that free headshot, and that was kind of the fatal error, but you have to feel like he just thinks he needs to make something happen. He has Blade of the Rune King. Hey, maybe if I win a duel, something happens.
Yeah, double headshot there. 90 caliber net into a headshot, trapped into a headshot. So the right things for WildTurtle to be doing on Caitlyn, and Caitlyn's that champion that you talk about having the weak mid game. The Blade of the Rune King, Black Cleaver, Power Spike is where Sneaky is supposed to have the edge on Lucian, but it feels like by the time Sneaky has his second item, Turtle's going to have his third, so that spot's really never going to happen.
Yeah, you just catapult completely past it with 4 kills and early turrets, and I think we're about to see Ray in some trouble again.
Yeah, Ray is caught farming in places he just cannot be. He does have flash and ulti, but Hauntzer is just going to try and fight him. Ray, decent ulti, he's going to keep trying to catch the Camille. Hauntzer finally ulti's down. He's going to miss that next number. Redemption from Ivern. He's going to make it a very unfair looking 1v1. Ray, though, able to get out of that situation.
Yeah, credit to Ray because he dodged everything.
He got, oh no! Hauntzer keeps sweeping in.
Playing with your gold lead right there.
Hauntzer's just so far ahead. He missed everything and still ended up winning with a little bit of help. But, I mean, that has got to be so frustrating for Ray. Hauntzzer missed, what, 3 hook shots? Yeah. He missed so many tactical sweeps. Like, he was missing literally everything and still won because he's so far ahead.
That's what happens when you're 3,000 gold ahead now of your lane opponent.
And the mindset, you can see it from C9 now with Sneaky trying to dive in for a duel which he narrowly lost, and then Ray trying to make the hero play, still going back in and narrowly losing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to try to make those plays, otherwise you're just playing to not lose. And Ray plays it very, very well.
Yeah, he gets the move speed from the Blade of the Rune King to dodge the first tactical sweep, and then right here, he's just making sure he's continuing to weave in his auto attack, sidesteps yet again, has to live through the redemption, and here he can quit. He's kind of withstood Hauntzer early, but he flashes in because he knows he has the marks for the stun, but he doesn't have enough damage. Hauntzer gets his shield back and then lands that last hook shot.
Well, I think Ray could have actually just not used his E there. He could have just kept autoing.
Probably gets the kill.
And he probably gets the kill. He actually went into melee range, allowed Hauntzer to get that last auto, and then the hook shot for the killing blow. So a bit of a mistake on the end of that duel.
And that's one of
Ray.
And that's one of those things that people that have played AP Kennen for a very long time don't really care as much about. But if you're playing some sort of on-hit AD build, you need to, because you cannot auto during Lightning Rush. I failed many a kill trying to do so, and ended up being like, oh, I can't do this. Well, TSM monumentally ahead at this stage, fast approaching 10,000 gold ahead.
And the question for the now becomes, how does TSM close out this game? How dominant can they look from ahead?
Yeah, and this is the type of game one that TSM wants to have. You look back to the 2016 Summer Finals in Toronto, Cloud9 are the ones who came out in top in game one, and then TSM won the next three. Normally, TSM are these slow starters in these series.
Well, I like this. This is cute from TSM, just taking a pretty sneaky Baron with the C9 Scuttlecrab. Not able to reveal enough. They've got good control wards as well, making sure this is unseen. And just snuck into the back with Ivern and Caitlyn.
Pretty difficult Baron to take. It's just the two man, but now they have the Weaver's Wall at a critical moment. Another great usage.
Really nice setup there from Bjergsen. Again, really good at this tactical ultimate usage. We've seen it on his rise when that was a big champion. Now on Taliyah, and TSM taking Baron. They do ascend to 10,000 gold ahead, and this should be a formality for TSM at this point.
Hauntzer just saw Kennen in the bot lane. He's going for it.
All right, he wants to redeem himself. Does get that stun. Now ulties him down. Ray still cutting our way. That is too much damage. Ray can't get out of the ultimatum, and Hauntzer gets that solo kill.
That is just brutal. Ray doesn't even stand a chance against Hauntzer. 7-0-1. Talk about a statement game to open things up.
Absolutely. First team all NALCS top laner Hauntzer. People were talking about at the start of the split how he may not be able to survive in a world of Korean top laners. Ray and Impact are both Korean top laners right here, and he's really trying to make him see Hauntzer.
More than surviving, I'd say. Thriving at least in this first game. As TSM just looking to close it out. They do have, again, some good globals to play with. Hauntzer does have his teleport. Bjergsen, when his ultimate comes back up, can be in a side lane if he needs to as well. TSM should have everything they need to just push down these inhibitors.
They certainly do, and the straight-up sieging ability of Caitlyn is so powerful that it's really tough to think of a way that C9 can really even get in. So TSM just going to walk it down, straight up start taking down this turret.
And Ivern is making this annoying as well with a whole bunch of rush in front, but ulti out from Sneaky. Contractz going to try and make a heroic play, kicks Turtle back in, but he flashes back and just shoots him for another kill. Redemption down to protect him, and Turtle just has too much of a fortress to play in. That turret's dead.
And Camille's not even here right now. Hauntzer's pushing up the mid lane, so TSM trying to make this a quick one.
Ray also going to get knocked up by Taliyah, I believe. Daisy out, going to continue the siege here. Hauntzer breaching through mid, so TSM is going to keep the rest of Cloud9 busy.
TSM just looked completely dominant in this game. C9 has just got to been thinking about what are you going to do for game two? Do you bring Impact back in? Does this make you doubt all your preparation that you've gone into this match with?
Well, second hit going down. TSM continuing to just rotate around. Hauntzer already actually on the bottom lane, getting that push in. They've got a minute and a half left of Baron buff. This should be a pretty easy take of these last few turrets.
Another Weaver's Wall to cut him off. Already 2 inhibitors down, working on number 3.
Third one now exposed. Cloud9 kind of have one last fight to try and defend it. TSM don't overextend. They're going to at least wait for the wave here. Yeah,
and if you're looking at this game, the 5-game series is much more than game 1. We've seen plenty of series in this playoffs have similarly styled game 1s like in FlyQuest versus COD, and then still have FlyQuest come back to win the series. So at this point in the game, you're almost already thinking about how do we prepare for the next game and figuring out a little bit of what went wrong and how you can prevent it from happening again.
And a lot of that is A, about confidence, it's about mentality, and it's about experience. And 2 of the guys on the field right now for C9 do not have a lot of that. I mean, even Smoothie is quite a new player, but Contractz, he's a rookie. Ray has not had this sort of big stage experience, and you have to wonder if players like that can handle the pressure. You're coming out in front of a massive crowd, most important game of the year, and then having a very rough game 1.
Well, looks like there's an Infernal Drake up in 35 seconds if either team wants to take a stab at it. Cloud9, pretty unlikely that they'll be able to get out of their base at this point, but TSM actually have 20 seconds of Baron left, so they're going to try and take down the last inhibitor with it. Hauntzer splitting on the top side, pressuring anyone that comes fight him in. It's just Ray there right now. He already knows he doesn't win a 1v1.
Yeah, and he's got a Guardian Angel, so even if you send 2 people You probably lose that fight with the 7-kill Camille, if at the very least, the other 4 people on TSM would probably take in Nexus turrets.
Turtle playing with Brush here, he's getting headshots everywhere, already has 3 items and a Q assessment. Contractz trying, but Turtle, this has too much protection. Jensen flashes in for it, but Sneaky almost going to get tagged in as Hauntzer. Leaps in, gets turned into a cupcake though by Lulu. C9 only lose 1, Contractz trying again to make the initiation, but Bjergsen leaps forward, gets 2 back on the scoop. Absolutely massive shot back as Jensen falls to second. Sneaky trying to kite it back as Hauntzer eats some fountain laser damage, and TSM just running all over Cloud9. Oh, Bjergsen again cuts them into their own fountain with Taliyah.
This game has gone about as perfectly as TSM could have planned it.
1 blemish on the record, actually, or 2. The Drake and that 1 kill. That was all C9 got in that game. TSM, a statement to start off the series.
Yeah, that was very nearly a perfect game from TSM. And the question is, how do they look from ahead? Well, the answer is pretty damn good. They closed that out extremely fast, never gave C9 an opening in, and didn't even have to wait around to do it.
Exactly. Camille was the most banned champion against TSM in the regular season. Hauntzer kind of showed you why right there. But what was so critical about this early game was actually WildTurtle and Biofrost having priority in the bottom lane. 2 of their 3 early kills were because they were shoving in the Lucian and the Lulu early and were able to collapse up. So if you're predicting Cloud9 in this series, a lot of people think it would be because Sneaky and Smoothie can get an advantage in that bottom lane. Because of the draft, because of the play of that game, TSM had that in that lane, and that kind of transitioned throughout the entire map.
And you have to look at a lot of it really is the draft, right? If you're going to leave your AD carry pick to last, if you're going to let them pick Caitlyn and then ban you out, put you in these tough matchups, you can't expect Sneaky and Smoothie to be able to win those. So, maybe they need to focus a little bit more on their strengths in that bot lane if they want to compete.
No matter what, C9 needs to reset after that one because that was a dominant TSM victory.
Well, we'll see what happens though. For more on that TSM win, let's check in with Frick and the rest of the analysts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yes, let's talk about this one. TSM, near perfect game in game 1. Normally, it's a team that loses the first one. Do the rest just look even better?
Possibly, but I don't know. I feel like C9 are going to take a lot of lessons from this draft because this draft kind of sucked, to be honest. Why are you taking the Lulu first when you could take Ivern first, and then Lulu Karma are interchangeable as the bottom lane protectors? So if you take the Ivern, you don't have to ban the Orianna in the second phase. You can ban Camille instead, because then they aren't going to run a protect the AD carry comp, because then they don't have the Ivern, and then they'd have to kind of combo that with an Orianna, and there would be a different type of composition. So I feel like that was a big failure, not taking the Ivern first.
Yeah, I don't think the other games are going to look worse than this game.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, the planning that went into this for TSM is really what shone through to me. They draft an anchor bottom lane with Caitlyn and Karma. That gives you so many options with Ivern, and how important the multiple starts are with Ivern. People are going to blame Contractz for, oh, he's a rookie up there on stage. It's really nervous to go invade super early. But TSM planned this ahead. They have an anchor bottom lane that's going to be pushing. If you invade on the blue steal, you can't do anything about that with Ivern because you might instantly steal away the blue. And so you're expecting Contractz to go for the counter blue. But their bottom lane is pushing up. They don't have the support to do that, and he kind of falls into that first mistake.
Yeah, and we got to see. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that monkey moment by C9 where their jungler went bot side into a losing matchup and gave him blue buff in first blood, and then Svenskeren went top side and pressured their losing matchup, but actually successfully blew Kennen's flash. Just totally sealed the early game for C9, and I think that draft was just like one of the most god-awful drafts I've ever seen in my life.
One other tiny little thing that added to it as well, people were like, oh, Bjergsen got blasted trying to steal the Raptors. Smoothie was there on the Lulu. He's the one that did most of the damage. So it's a Lucian 1v2 starting versus Caitlyn Karma. I mean, what's your option there, Double? Like, you get pushed in, you get harassed. There's no way that they have control of bottom lane.
And you can see down the line, everyone doing more damage than their counterpart, TSM winning their lanes. You saw Hauntzer, of course, have an insanely good KDA right there, and millions of kills on Array, and it was just, as you said, never got off the ground for C9.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Kobe, that Smoothie was there in the mid, just jumping back to that for a second. Jensen got to chunk out Bjergsen to about a 4th, maybe even a 3rd HP, but that didn't translate into pressure, because if Jensen shoves up, he's actually there for a blue collapse, right? He's keeping Bjergsen under his tower. It looked like C9 maybe wasn't communicating that this is the play the Contractz would go for next.
The other thing I really like that TSM did in this draft is getting 2 super mobile champions for the solo laners.
Yeah.
Because Hauntzer and Bjergsen are the 2 guys that really create a lot of the plays for this team. If you have Camille, who's one of the least talked about things is her engagement range. If she gets ahead, like both she can escape and she can engage from super far away, and Hauntzer just went off as soon as he got that lead.
I highly doubt that Camille is going to be left unbanned for the rest of the series. Like, this champion just seems insane. I've always said this, but like, Camille, if he gets ahead, she just takes over a game. Even if the rest of his lanes, even if Hauntzer's bot lane and mid were losing, I think he still would have been able to use Ivern's shield and Redemption and Locket to just totally carry team fights and snowball.
Yeah, she's pretty disgusting. Actually, that 1v1 that happened up in the top side, I looked at it again. The adapted defenses actually swapped in the middle of it. It was magic the first time, and then when the second time, when he went back in, it actually swapped to physical damage. So the Kennen couldn't auto-attack her down in that last moment. I was like, oh my god, this champion just actually went the right way at the right time. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the thing is, it's weird because I would consider that mechanic Kennen favorite. If he's half physical, half magic, and he's like, oh, you got magic shield, I'll wait on the ulti and let it time out and auto you for free to get physical shield. I'll hit my spells and wait to auto.
Exactly,
right?
but he already used his spells, so
sure.
it swapped to physical at the second half.
Yeah.
Like, all I have is autos for the rest.
Although I would still rather be a hybrid champion against Camille in general to ignore some of the shield. Either way,
I agree.
Double Up, I want to talk to you about something because we've heard for a while, like maybe you want to get back on TSM. We looked at WildTurtle stats this game versus your stats against Sneaky Smoothie last time in Canada. Turtle's winning late by more than you did. Any thoughts?
Whoa.
No.
He got blue buff
This
at
is for
first
Double Lift. This is for Double Lift. Any comments about
He played really well. I think like his collapse on Lee Sin's blue, like I can't discredit him. He pushed up the lane like he should on Caitlyn, and when Contractz like went over aggressive, he was able to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
The flash net was pretty creative there. And then other than that, like I think Caitlyn versus Lucian, when Lucian gets ahead, he snowballs through work, and when Caitlyn gets ahead, she snowballs through just like permanently pushing and playing basically to avoid trading.
Yeah.
And I think like WildTurtle did a good job of just like slowly chipping away at that tower and waiting for Taliyah, waiting for the Camille TP. He didn't overplay as Caitlyn, which is a really easy mistake to make.
Yeah.
And then I mean he just did really well through the early game.
All right, well, of course, a very solid win by TSM, 1-0 start for them in the best of 5, and of course, Game 2 is coming up. We'll see if C9 can fire back. Stay tuned.